Let's turn to you, Hayden.
I love it.
What's up, man?
Not much, man. How are you?
So LinkedIn,
Yes.
San Francisco,
Yep.
they moved you to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason you came here is because of LinkedIn.
Yeah. So I was in a rotational program, like I said, and they had open opportunities in Chicago, and they needed people to move just because they had open headcount and they just needed butts and seats. And also, I had just gotten to a point in San Francisco where I just needed to move. Like mentally, I was in a place like I came to a realization. I was like, I think I need to see a therapist. Like it was just getting very dark for me in San Francisco, and so I was like, for me, the
Anxiety,
answer was like
depression.
totally.
I want to quit.
Just a lot of I mean, I've struggled with a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
And
I as well.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, dude, it is an epidemic, I think, more than people realize.
Yeah, my guess is 70-80% of Americans are suffering from major
Some
anxiety.
kind of anxiousness.
It's huge. Yeah. Well, and a lot of it was stemmed from the fact that I had a very hard time asking for help. Like that, it was a big piece of it. Was I was not very open about how I was feeling about anything. I remember I was in the LinkedIn office in Sunnyvale. I was in getting lunch, and I remember I had a text message typed out, and I couldn't send it for like 2 hours, and it said, I think I need to talk to somebody. But it was like such a hard thing for me to admit.
Wow.
And I just like very viscerally like remember that. And so, but that's been sort of that was sort of the saving grace of moving to Chicago, was that then I had an opportunity to be like, okay, cool. Like, what do I need to do? I started, I saw a therapist. I started like talking to people more.
Right.
But so that was kind of the thing that prompted me to move.
Beautiful, bro. How old are you?
26.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That has you in your 30s.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh,
man.
Cool. Hell yeah. I
That's
usually
great.
get the opposite. I usually like, are you old enough to drink?
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean,
I just have
can
a young
see that.
face. Yeah.
Well, I went through the same thing, man. When I was previously married. My current wife is my second wife.
Yep.
And in that first marriage, I was getting a divorce, and I was a wreck. And I was just like, I think I need to talk to someone. I was kind of just like you, like, no. I'm too proud to admit that I can't figure all this shit out on my own. And I was like, nah, dude, you better let that go quick.
It's crazy. Like man, the amount of like shame there is around therapy, it's such a tragedy.
This is what I love about Charlemagne. Do you know Charlemagne the God?
Ish.
He's like he became famous. He's like a radio guy.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Kind of like a Howard Stern in his old days, or like not really shock jocks, but like. But he became famous out of that. Like he kind of made it big, kind of like Ryan Seacrest. Ryan Seacrest is a radio guy who made it big, and he's still doing radio. And I think Charlemagne's in New York, doing radio in New York, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, he's a big. He wrote a book on mental health, and he does a whole like tour and all that stuff on mental health.
I love that, dude.
So I was
That's
like, whoa,
awesome.
good for you, dude.
That needs to happen more,
right?
Like, there need to be more. I mean, especially people who are in positions of power and influence like that, coming out and actually talking about it. Because, like, fundamentally, the idea is that there's nothing wrong with you. Nobody's broken. It's just that everyone has had stuff happen to them. Like adulthood is literally just yourself from what happened to you as a kid, and everyone has stuff.
I love
everyone has stuff. Like some people have worse traumas than others, but
say it again.
Everyone has.
Adulthood is yourself
from what happened to you as a kid.
From what happened to you as a kid.
Yeah, because everyone's got stuff.
Right. Now, therapists will help you.
Yes.
You don't do that per se. As a life coach.
Yeah, it's different. Coaching and therapy are
two different
things. Yeah.
All right. We've had a life coach on here before. Angie, who you know.
Yep.
In fact, you were an inspiration to her for her to become a life coach.
Yeah.
So, but you've been doing it for a longer period than she has.
Yep.
And you even have moved into the teaching role at times. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you know your shit, I think. Yeah. I hope so, right? So, okay. So if a life coach is not a therapist, what is a life coach?
So a life coach is someone that you partner with to actually look at it, what it is you want to create. So therapy has more to do with, hey, what has happened to you? Why did those things happen? How did that impact the way that you are now? A lot of times it has more to do with like healing emotional trauma, and therapists are normally licensed. The interesting thing about coaching is that it's technically an unregulated industry. So anybody can call themselves a coach without having to go through a program.
But you can't do it as a therapist, obviously.
No. So therapy is much more past oriented. So you're looking backwards.
What has been created already, you as a human being.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And coaching is much more like, what is it that you're actually looking to create
in the future?
And the cool thing that I love about coaching is that, while it's not therapy, it can be therapeutic. Because the assertion is that there are certain things that happened to you as you grew up that gave you stories that you now operate within, certain belief systems that you operate within, who you believe yourself to be, how you think that the world operates, like what you think you should or should not be doing.
Correct.
And we can't change the fact that those things have happened. That's just how it is. And so with coaching, the great thing is it actually doesn't matter why those things happened. It just matters what is it that you actually want to create and how are you going to practice choosing differently so that you can go out and create those things.
And do you mean external projects create, or do you mean the human being sitting across from a life coach create?
It's both.
Both.
So that's the cool thing is like we actually get to play in both of those arenas. So a lot of times, when I partner with somebody or when somebody hires me, like we're looking at what are the external things that you're working on or that you want to create. So for a lot of people, it's, I'm not happy in my job and I want to create a new career, or I want to create a new financial situation, or, a new relationship, like romantic relationship, what have you, which is awesome. And that's really the external piece that we're playing in, but there's a lot of internal shifts and transformation that also has to happen as a result.
Okay, so you'll participate in both those. And I heard you earlier before we jumped on the podcast talk about external strategy versus internal strategy.
Yeah,
were those the words you used? I think they were.
Yeah,
and I love that how you tease that out. And you're basically bifurcating or like splitting out.
Yep.
The external stuff you want to create.
Yep.
Like a project or a new job.
Yep.
Versus the internal talk or beliefs that you have and that strategy.
Bingo.
And you help more with the internal. Is that correct?
Well, so it's both technically. The place that will spend the majority of our conversations is in the internal, but that has external
ramifications and impact and consequences.
Yeah,
right?
well, because ultimately it's this idea that like what we think about more frequently, or who we believe ourselves to be, we then create an external reality that's a reflection of that.
Sorry, slow down. Say that one more time.
So we create an external reality.
You speak so fast, and I'm like, this guy's dropping wisdom. I need to hear it slower, dude. It's got a process.
Yeah. External reality is a direct reflection of who we currently believe ourselves to be.
Okay, totally.
So if we don't think that we're worth much, if we don't think that we're very intelligent, if we don't think we're very attractive,
we're going to show up that way.
We will create a reality that supports that belief system.
This is a money and business podcast.
Yep.
If I don't think I'm capable of making good money, or if I believe I'm supposed to be poor, that's obviously how I'm going to live.
Bingo.
And so poor in that sense is a mindset.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is it's
and so that's my external reality.
Yeah. So the work that I do with
you hear this shit, John?
Yeah.
Good. Listen up.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out.
I love it. So the work that I'm doing with people, it is internal work. So we're really getting clear on who do you believe yourself to be, who do you want to be, and through the course of us working together week to week, you're looking at what are the practices and the structures to put in place so that you're actually showing up that way more consistently.
Consistent awareness generation, constant awareness generation.
Yeah.
You're holding up that mirror each week.
Bingo. Yeah.
Okay, for them to see like, yo, you better do something, otherwise you're going to continue to think you are a poor person.
For sure. Well,
or you can't be a successful business person.
Yeah. And that's the interesting piece is like, especially with something like coaching, it requires the client to be consistently willing to go through that process. And the thing about,
because it's hard, right?
I mean, like literally
looking yourself in the mirror every day.
We're looking at like some of the darkest pieces of your belief system and how you think about yourself and maybe what's like happened to you. We're not necessarily looking backwards, but like it's informed, your current set of beliefs. So we're looking at stuff that's not always fun.
Right.
Like you might be a victim in a lot of senses, and a lot of people don't like to hear that. But that could be part of the thing that's keeping you where you are.
Okay. Do you mean like an example would be like some kind of physical abuse, sexual abuse?
No,
victim?
sorry.
Or what do you mean by victim?
So yeah.
Or do you mean victim mentality?
Victim mentality.
Yeah.
Okay. It's more
poor me. I can never win.
Woe is me.
Woe is me.
Life is happening to me. I have no control over my response. Damn. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's the thing that's keeping you stuck. Because if you're in a victim mentality, if things are happening to you, you have no power to make any change.
All right. As a life coach the last couple of years, do you yourself still struggle with victim mentality at times?
100%.
You mean once you become a life coach, it doesn't just work itself out?
It doesn't
weird.
just
Yeah, you don't
magically
become-
disappear.
Yeah, just the perfect human.
Here's what I think. I actually think it becomes even harder for a life coach because, like, when you start learning it, you actually start figuring it out, I bet. You know? And your ego's like, damn, this dude's got me. Shit, I guess I can't be so much of a victim. But then a year, 2 or 3 later, or months later, it's like, I got a new strategy to make you feel like a victim.
Yeah. So that's the funny piece. I was just having this conversation today. In the work that I do with clients, one of the things that we identify is what are your survival mechanisms?
Survival
mechanisms.
I know what mine are. I mean, I know some of them are.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, keep
So
going,
it's
sorry.
basically like self-sabotage. It's
Yes.
how do you defend yourself? How do you protect yourself? How do you self-sabotage in a sense? And when we name them, when we articulate them, then we can actually point them out and pick something different. But the thing that I was saying today about survival mechanisms is that they don't ever leave. They don't ever go away entirely. Like they
We're
get
so damn
sneakier.
convinced that that's what we need to survive. That they just come back. Pattern.
Well, yes, but in different ways.
Different ways, yeah.
Yeah. So the cool thing about coaching is as you go through that awareness generation, you get more aware of how those things show up. And when you first start, you're like, oh, wow, these things are running my life. They're showing up everywhere. And that gives you the opportunity to get responsible for those things. Like you start to see how it shows up and you're like, cool, I'm not going to do it over there anymore. I'm not going to do it over there anymore. I'm not going to do it over there. But what you realize is like, instead of coming through the front door, they start to come in through the windows and they just get sneakier and they get more subtle.
Bastards.
Yeah. And so like even I've been doing this work for a couple of years, and even now I'll be on the phone with my coach and I'll be like, oh, it's the thing. It's the thing.
All right, so here's my survival mechanism, right? Yeah. Be super fake and super white when white people I'm scared of are around.
AKA when I'm on the podcast.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
What did you say? What?
He's in it right now because John's here.
Yeah,
right,
because I'm here.
No, so growing up in Oklahoma, Illinois, all white, I was the only Arab dude. Only brown dude or black dude. So that's it. So I grew up all around, and I think it like scared the shit out of me at some level. And at times, like I'd be at my friend's parents' house, my friend's house, and their parents, at least a couple times, it was not safe for me to be there. People getting drunk and riding motorcycles and shit, and they would like yell slurs at me and shit, and I was like, whoa, yeah. So, and it happened multiple times, many times growing up, and then now at the same time, I'd go to Hyde Park, Chicago, where my dad owned a business, and that was a lot more diverse, a lot more African Americans and other brown people, and especially African Americans. I'm like, these people get me. Like at least I get them, they get me, and so I'd like become friends with them. But I only see them like once a week or once a month because I wouldn't go to the store a lot. Like I wouldn't go to my dad's grocery store a lot. I'd go sometimes. In the summer it was better because I spent more time there. So I lived this weird life where I'm like in the suburbs. I'm with all these white people. I go to work with dad, and I'm with all these more brown and black people. And so to this day, so then I go work at Wall Street, and I kind of put on that same thing, like oh I got to fit in here. So I gotta put on white Amer, and I wouldn't be myself. Yeah, I feel like I'm faking the funk,
Yeah. Yep.
And so when I started realizing that, I'm like, this, like,
Yep.
I remember the biggest thing I had to do was change my name because for the longest time I anglicized my name to Amer, so people wouldn't have trouble pronouncing it. But my name's Amer.
Yeah.
And so I was at 27. I'm like, who the hell's Amer?
Yeah.
And I just started telling people, I'm like, yo, it's Amer.
Yeah.
Well,
it's interesting. I mean, it's cool that you recognize that because then you can.
I'm trying to survive because and my parents taught me all sorts of crazier stuff. Like they're like, if Israel took our land in Palestine and Israel's friends with America, we have to, it's dangerous here too.
Yeah.
Be afraid of Jewish people. Be afraid of white people. Like it's dangerous.
Yep.
And so I grew up with that until I had to deprogram that out and be like, wait a minute, and I can't put all white people and Jewish people in that category. It's not working for me anymore. Yep. And so those survival mechanisms, I still catch them sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, who's like, why am I like, being so like, what's the word? Like not condescending, but like I'm being so servile or like, oh yes, Mr. White Man, how are you? Like, who is that? Like, that's not you, Amer. Like, stand up for yourself. Say what you need to say.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a survival mechanism?
Totally. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's in that sense, it might be people pleasing. It might be, whatever it is. But at the very least, it's performative. Like you're performing.
Performative, yes.
You're performing to protect something or because you're afraid. And so it's interesting because you think about how everyone has a flavor of that. And for a lot of people, that's deeply entrenched. And so for so many people, like they're spending literally 24/7 performing in their lives. That's exhausting. Like, can you imagine being in like a theatrical play for 24 hours a day? That'd be exhausting. Yeah. And so many people, I think, are exhausted and really tired of that and want something else. Like they want to create a life where they can just show up and just be themselves.
I feel like that would cause a breakdown eventually.
Yeah,
it does.
Where you're sitting there at your phone texting saying, I think I need to talk to someone.
And you don't send it for 2 hours.
Yeah, literally. But I mean, you think about, I don't know if you guys know anything by a gentleman, Joe Dispenza, but he talks a lot about how thoughts actually have a material and physical impact on our body.
Yeah.
So
Psychosomatic.
Super interesting. So he talks about how, really quick example, he talks about, you think about a gazelle in the wild.
Yep.
And a gazelle is super present all the time. It doesn't have stories. It doesn't have an identity like we do. It's just there. And it gets approached by a predator. It starts to run away. It goes into flight mode.
Like a lion or something? Who eats gazelles, right?
Lion or whatever it is. And starts running. Tiger. It's in stress mode, right? And then it gets away from the lion, and then it goes back. And then it removes itself from stress mode. The adrenaline leaves, and then it just goes back to being present. And you think about people, we are constantly running from something. Like we're constantly running from some predator. Is that true? Like, well, no, I mean, you think about like, oh, how am I going to pay my rent next month?
Yeah.
Like this relationship.
Or for me, I don't trust white men, right? So I'm like, wherever I see white men, I got to run. Careful.
So you think about the stress hormones, like the cortisol.
By the way, the gazelle, I've heard this before. Like after they escape from the predator, you may see them on like the Animal Channel or Animal Planet or whatever. They'll like take a moment to like shake it all out. They'll do a thing. Yeah. There's a name for that. I don't know what it is.
Yep.
And then they're like, all right, I got to get all that shit out of my system. And then the body comes back to like stasis.
Yep. Because it's nature acting naturally, which sounds kind of silly, but like it just does. Nature's just doing what it does.
What it does.
But we don't shake out. It's because we're programmed by our conditioning. We're programmed by our society, by the people that we grow up with, to act in a certain way, which a lot of times is out of accordance with how we naturally operate as humans, as animals. And so all that to say, we live with so much stress. We live within this constant state of anxiety of like, fight or flight or whatever it is. Maybe, yeah. And so you think about like, if you're constantly running from something, you have this constant cortisol, stress hormones in your body. Like, of course that would lead to illness. Of course that would lead to physical breakdown.
Back hurts, right. Lower back hurts. That's why everyone's lower back hurts.
Bingo.
Damn. Bingo. All right. So good. I got some idea of structure, constant awareness generation. I get that. I get the survival mechanisms, how that's tiring and how you can shed light on that with someone so that they become more aware of it week to week, and how that might be able to free them up to actually create the life they want to create. Yeah. All right, I get all that. So give me some how about like have you been able to see or walk someone through a period of time where you have seen dramatic change and they continue to come to you, or maybe they're done with their work? Are they eventually done at some point?
So that's the cool thing about coaching is it's really, my whole goal is to actually not have a job. Like I'm literally trying to work myself out of a job by supporting somebody and closing whatever gaps they come to me for, like the gap between where they are and where they want to be. And when we get to the end of that, it might very well be, okay, cool. Like this worked out the way that it did. And now, I'm good and I'm going to go do whatever. But they then get to live the rest of their lives with the impact of the work that we did together. And so, I have a soft spot for people who are in more traditional corporate roles, who have been doing all the right things. Like they went to the good college and they got the good job and they're just like crushing it on paper.
Majority of middle class America.
Totally. But inside they're like hating it.
I hate my life.
Yup. Super unfulfilled. Like this literally, this can't be just everything that there is to life.
Thoreau, what did he say? I forget what it was. Something about quiet, living a quiet life of desperation. Most men live a quiet life of desperation.
Yep.
Something like that. I do not quote that. It's a much better, more
most people. It's just most people generally. So I've got a huge soft spot for those folks because it was exactly what happened to me. Like I got to this point where
do you think most folks? But I just want to tease this out for a moment. I don't feel like women struggle with that as much as men.
I would disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they might be more in tune with it. They might understand it and be able to articulate it a bit more, but I don't think that they're still succumbing to external pressures. I mean, the majority of the people that I work with are women.
Okay.
The majority of my practice is women. Yeah.
Well, I would say, I think that shows right there. Like, I think men live that quiet life of desperation. They won't even come to you.
Yeah.
Like me and you couldn't send that text message.
I feel like men are more reluctant to reach out for help.
Totally
agree.
I think women, I don't know if it's the fact that they have motherly instincts, whether they've had kids or not, or what it is. But even with my wife, I'm like, man, she's way more in tune than I am. Like, she gets shit way better than I do.
Yeah.
What's up with me?
Well, I think women are socialized to be more in touch with their own internal, like, emotional and mental worlds.
Maybe.
Like, you know, it's, I don't know if you've heard this before, but it was, they're talking about how men hang out and women hang out. And this is totally a generalization, but they were saying, like, when you hang out with other guys, like, you just go out and do stuff.
Yeah.
Like, guys just are with each other and they just go do things. But like women, they sit and they talk to each other and they connect and they talk about things. And it's more socially acceptable for women to, like, express their feelings and be in touch with their emotions than it is for men.
I'm in a book club and, like, we'll get together and it's like, we don't read the book, we don't talk about the book. We're, like, playing pool, we're watching TV, we're doing something, you know what I mean? Like, we're out, for some reason we're walking half the time, going to a restaurant. But then my wife has a book club. I come home at like 10 or 11 at night. They're all still sitting around the table and it's so quiet and intimate. I'm like, what is going on in here? You know, I'm like, damn.
It's funny too.
There's healing happening in this house.
Yeah. I can't even tell you, like, the number of events that I go to, like coaching events, and I am one of the only men. Like, maybe one or two men that are there. Wow. There are very, very few men in this profession, which I think it's a tragedy. Like, I think that, and also an opportunity. Like, I think there's a big opportunity.
That's right. So I cut you off. So
so
I was asking you, like, a story or like, walk us through an example of, especially if something in the world of business and how this might pertain to helping someone make more money or achieve things in their life. Like, if somebody came to you and was like, yo, I want to double my income. That's all I care about. You know, how would you respond to that person? Have you ever had someone do that?
Yeah. So, interestingly, in this, you know, there's some explanation that goes along with this, but it's actually so cool. This is the result that you want to create, and it's actually taking a look at who do you need to become in order to create that. Which is sort of, it seems like a sort of like a metaphysical kind of out there obtuse question.
Like, no, I just need to make money. Tell me how to double my income. And you're like, no, sorry. You're going to have to change as a transform as a human being.
Yeah. Yep. Your internal belief system.
If you care about earning that income, supposedly you're doubling it, transformation will be required.
Bingo. Yeah. And internal transformation. Because it's going to come from most likely, well, I think we as people generally, we choose from a couple of places unconsciously. We choose from fear because we're afraid of something. We choose from our feelings. Or we choose from self-defense, like some sort of like
fear is our feelings.
Behavior. Yeah, totally. And so if you're looking to do something.
And then self-defense. This is the survival mechanism?
Bingo.
Got it.
Bingo. So if you're looking to do something that you've never done before, there's a chance that you are going to have to radically shift the way that you relate to yourself.
Wow, dude, you're blowing my mind right now. I know we're supposed to get to the story about this person, but like 6-7 years ago, I had this big shift, and I'm like, yo, I don't want to be a banker anymore. I don't want to do this. This is not working for me anymore. Yeah. I don't feel right. My body's hurting. My brain, my heart feels empty. Like, it's not working for me, you know. And it took me 4 years after that, or maybe 3 years after that, to actually pull the plug.
Yeah.
And move into the world of entertainment and what I'm trying to do now. It's been pulling the plug was hard, but I was able to do it. I got the right support, talked to the right people, and that happened over a 1 or 2 year period. But then since then, it's been so mentally hard. Yeah. Constant voice saying, "What the hell did you do? Are you doing? You're an idiot.
Yep.
Go back to that. Wife and kids now? Your savings are going down. Get ready to be 6 feet under. You're gonna die." That's the voice inside.
Yeah, I hear that every morning when I wake up.
Pretty much constantly.
Yeah, I see the
Don't
sunlight.
You mean afternoon?
Yeah, in the afternoon. When I wake up, that's probably another thing is that you shouldn't get up after. You should get up before noon if you're going to fix your life.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah, it would help out. Like, I think there's something to being awake in the morning.
Of course.
Yeah.
Or the bird gets the worm, baby.
Yeah.
But no, hold on. So you're saying radical change in the way a person approaches the world or their own thoughts?
Just what they create.
Huh?
So what they create.
No, but you were saying when I interrupted you, it was like you were saying like if you're gonna try and do something whole different new thing, you're gonna need a radical new way of thinking and being with yourself. Is that what you said?
Bingo. Yeah, exactly. Well, so you think about how we normally set goals or how we create a vision for what we want. Usually, it's we do it from a place of probability. So we do it from a place of what's realistic or what's likely.
What's the chance I'm successful in comedy?
Yeah. Well, it's 100%. I got you.
Thank you,
but it's based on who we believe ourselves to be up to that point. So, which is fine, and that's how the majority of folks operate. But if you want to do something that's radically different, like if you want to do something that you currently believe to be impossible, like if you don't actually change or shift anything, like projecting a best case scenario future from where you are right now doesn't change the fact that the things that are impossible right now, well, they'll remain impossible.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. You're saying with the current Amer at that, let's say at that time, that Amer who believed it was impossible to be successful in entertainment or comedy, if no radical change is done, that impossible mindset will remain.
Totally.
Got it.
Well, and you probably wouldn't say like, hey, I'm going to become a comedian next year. Like it's because it's so far outside of what you've done before. So the place that you're more
this might reveal how dumb I am, but that's what I said.
Well, no, but that's actually really cool because then it provided you an opportunity to jump into something that is now working out for you. But this other way of thinking is actually sort of a prison. Like it keeps you in the same box.
Which other way of thinking?
This way of thinking, like where you say, "Hey, I'm just gonna set goals a year from now based on who I currently am." Okay. Or like what's predictable.
You're saying that's likely. A prison.
That's a prison because you create more of the same. So like take for example, there's a like this idea that you can't create a job that you love that also pays you a lot of money. That's a super common,
everyone thinks that.
Very common belief.
Everyone thinks that. And so, say it one more time slowly.
If you can't have a job that you love that also makes you money.
I believe most people don't think most people don't believe that.
And so therefore it is not going to happen for the majority of people.
Of course.
Because you have to believe it. You have to first believe something to be possible before you can actually go out and create that thing.
Just dropping knowledge.
And so that's what I do with people. Like we actually sit down and we say, if it's not about what's likely, if it's not about what's realistic, like what do you actually want to happen for yourself? And that's where we set the flag. And then likely you don't know how to get from A to Z. So it's going to be more of a process of trusting that you'll be able to figure it out as you go along and just being comfortable with the fact that that path, it's probably not going to look like what you thought it was going to look like.
Right. Right. Way different.
And that's probably what you've experienced too.
Absolutely. Completely different. Completely. Okay. So talk to us about a client you've had or the best you can.
Totally. So
who came to you, double income, whatever.
Yeah, bingo. Well, okay. So the thing that I was saying earlier was I've got a soft spot for people who want to leave their more traditional jobs and go out and do something completely different because I think it's so fun and I think that's kind of the whole point of living is creating something that's unique. It's a reflection of you. So I had a client that I just finished with recently. So she came to me in February and she basically was like, hey, I feel kind of stuck at work and, I want to do things differently. And I think at some point down the road, I would want to get into coaching or like, maybe some sort of like personal development space or what have you. So I was like, okay, cool. So we start working together and
so move out of corporate into maybe a life coaching kind of thing.
Maybe it was more based on, she just didn't want to be where she was. And she had this inkling that like maybe coaching is the thing for me, but like it's a down the line kind of thing. And so I just finished working with her. She, in 6 months, she committed to a coach's training program. She got hired as a coach and she's now leaving her job by the end of the year to go out and do coaching full time.
Wow. By December.
Which is awesome. Yeah. Well, it's
that'll have been 9 months or something like that.
It was six.
By December.
Oh, by December. Yeah.
3 more months from now.
Yeah. Bingo. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So in 9 months, that's a pretty big transformation.
Yeah. Well, it's partnering with somebody who's going to hold the space for, what you actually want and can reflect back to you like, hey, this is actually possible sooner than you think it is. And let's actually sit down and take a look at like what's it going to take to get you from where you are to where you want to be.
Was it weekly visits with her?
Yeah, it's weekly. Yeah,
in person or over the phone?
No, so I do the majority of my coaching over the phone. If people are here in Chicago and want to meet up, that's awesome because it's a totally different vibe, being in person versus being over the phone.
Okay,
but yeah. So.
And okay, so now she's not the double income person, is she?
No.
All right. How about that? Have you had someone who said that? Like their focus was income? That was their main?
So not any specific clients that I've had.
Okay.
But it's ultimately it's the same. It's the same kind of thing. Yes, income is different than switching your job, but at the same time, if it's something that's out of your comfort zone, it's going to require the same exact kind of process.
Yeah. Changing transforming in a way where you start to believe things are possible, and that will require then a lot of events that'll take place that are out of your control, basically.
Yep.
And
or
getting
that you
comfortable
don't know.
with that.
Yeah. And that's the tough part.
And
also the fun part.
Yeah. Wow. Life coach, coaching a person on their life. That's cool.
John told me he wants to become a life coach.
No. No. I have enough trouble trying to coach my own life.
All right. So, yeah, man, that's pretty interesting. I'm trying to think how this ties in the world of business. Mm-hmm. I can see how it clearly ties in with promotions.
Yep.
That's very easy for me to see. Yep. I can see how it ties in with the career switch altogether. Mm-hmm. It's very clear to me. Mm-hmm.
So here's what I'll say.
Yeah.
About from the business perspective. So I was actually just talking about this the other day. So, on the individual level, what I'm doing with people is I'm supporting them in inventing a future that before they started working with me was impossible. And it's cool because it's actually the exact same process if I go in and work with an organization or if I go in and work with a business. Businesses do the same thing. They set a vision for themselves. They set goals for themselves. And so you can actually do that exact same thing in partnership with a business. Like what for this business is considered an impossible future? How do we set that? And then work to create it.
Whoa. Really?
It's the same thing.
So right now I'm helping. So I've decided to help relaunch my late father's restaurant.
Cool.
All right. And in my mind, I want to double revenues. Uh-huh. Okay. And I want a staff that's very humanized, that all care about each other and have each other's back. Yeah. So I'm trying to believe that it's possible to have a cool culture where people trust each other, have each other's backs. If they don't have the answers, they go and figure it out. And they give guests an awesome experience. Because that's what the restaurant is. We're in the experience business, just like comedy. We're there to give people an experience. And I'm like, and we're going to double revenues. Mm-hmm. And so I've been thinking every night when I think about it, I'm like, yo, I don't know can we really do this? I don't know if this can happen. Yeah. Yeah. And so you're saying, hey, a life coach can actually assist with that?
Yep. Well, I mean, it depends on the people that they work with, but there are coaches like through the organization that I'm involved in. It's called Accomplishment Coaching. We literally have an organizational arm that goes into businesses and does the exact same work that people are doing with individuals. They're just doing it in conjunction with businesses.
Business coach.
Yeah.
Not life coach.
In a sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Because that's the cool part, right? Like you're thinking about what would it take to double the revenue of this restaurant, and at the same time create a culture where people show up and can serve the customer.
Because the boss you see on TV is like do this, do that, yelling at everyone and being a dick, and I'm like that's just not how I want to show up.
Yeah. So the question would then be like, who do you need to be as a leader and as an employer in order for those things to happen?
I don't want to answer that question.
Is there an answer to that question?
Who do I need to be?
Yeah.
Damn, let me think about that for a minute. Who do I need to be in order for the revenue to double and for the staff to have a positive, trusting culture?
Yep.
Well, I think we actually know the answer. I need to be trusting in order for them to be trusting.
Well, cultures are a reflection of the leaders.
Absolutely. That makes sense. Yeah, and that if you think about Carlos or Hiroto and all these guys, like that's hopefully who they're being is that type of leader, so that it trickles down to the rest of the staff.
Bingo.
But what about for the revenue part? Who do I have to be?
Same deal. Like if you were to put yourself in your shoes when you've doubled profits, let's say it's a year from now and you've doubled profits in the restaurant, and you sit and you really get connected with like, what does that feel like? How does that change my day to day? How does it change the interactions that I have with employees? Like, who is that person? Because it is possible. That's total. There is a reality where that is possible, and it's just figuring out like how do you need to show up in order for that reality to actually play out.
So you're saying visualize myself sitting a year from now with revenues or profits, either one doubled.
Yeah.
And you're saying, who is that guy?
Yeah, who is that guy?
And can I have enough focus on that guy to manifest him today or as the year goes on?
Yep. And that becomes the work.
Okay,
so then practice being that person from here until the foreseeable future.
All right, so let me just answer that question. Who is that guy? I mean, a financially responsible guy. Like I respond to all the needs in a prioritized way for the business. I delegate instead of trying to do everything myself. I say no to things that don't make the staff better or don't double revenues. Those are some descriptions. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. I mean, the things that I'm hearing, it sounds like servant leadership. It sounds like responsibility. It sounds like focus. It sounds like it's literally like what are the qualities?
Focus. What's servant leadership? Basically serving the staff?
Bingo. I mean, servant leadership is really putting the impetus on, like, it has nothing to do with me as the leader. Like it's actually my job is to support, encourage, and empower the people who are following me. And I'm truly committed. It has nothing to do with me. Ego's out of the door. It only has to do with how do I empower my employees to be able to do the best possible job that they can.
Well, damn, I think we all just heard me go through a life coach session today. Through my issues with white people and my issues with my business. How can we get this podcast to make some money? Is that possible? That's impossible.
Amer, you made a lot of breakthroughs today.
Yeah, thank you, John. I need a
nice work.
I need a hug. Can I get a hug?
Maybe later.
Yeah. So we'll do the podcast doubling.
Perfect.
Well, I guess all I gotta do is visualize who that guy is with podcast making money. Let's say one day.
Yep.
Or
you start with that as the end, and then you work backwards to.
Honestly, with the podcast, it's less about making money. I think it's more about making an awesome podcast.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so I got to picture who that guy is. A year from now on a podcast, and I'm like, yeah, I love that podcast.
Well, like we were talking about earlier about like internal and external strategy.
Yes.
That's the internal strategy.
Getting the mind right, visualizing that person.
How do you need to show up? And that will
strategy.
actually inform the external strategy.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful.
Fantastic.
Hayden, thanks for coming on, my man.
Absolutely. Thank you. Hayden.
John Dolder, producing the shit out of the show.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, baby. Thank you all for listening. Peace.
Peace out.